At dinner, my sister stood up and said, "I'm not grateful for freeloaders who pretend to be family." Everyone looked at me. I just grinned. And that night, I quietly cut off every bill I'd been covering for her. 1 week later, she was begging for help. You'd think that by 34, I'd be immune to my sister's little power plays. But that Thanksgiving dinner was different. I'd spent the whole morning helping Mom cook like I always do. I even picked up Melanie on the way because her car had been making a weird sound for 2 weeks, and she refused to take it in. She said she'd been too busy with work, but I knew she just didn't want to spend the money. When we pulled into the driveway, she was already on her phone complaining about something. Music, probably to that guy she keeps taking back every time he cheats. Inside, everything looked perfect. Mom really outdid herself this year. Candles, gold-trimmed plates, the smell of cinnamon and turkey in the air. You know those magazine-style Thanksgivings people dream about. It was that at least for the first hour. Music, dinner started like normal. A few jokes from Dad, some awkward updates from our brother Kyle. Melanie barely looking up from her phone. But then she stood up real sudden right as I was reaching for the gravy. She tapped her spoon against her glass. Everyone stopped. It was quiet enough to hear the wind outside. She said she wanted to go around and say what we were thankful for. Music, I don't know why, but my stomach dropped. Something about her smile. She didn't wait for anyone else to speak. Just launched right into it. She said she was thankful for people who actually contribute, people who work hard, people who don't just pretend to be part of the family while living off others. And then came the line that did it. I'm not thankful for freeloaders pretending to be family. Music, no one breathed, not even Mom. All eyes turned to me like I was supposed to defend myself against a crime I didn't commit. Or maybe because they knew what she was implying and didn't want to touch it. I just looked back at her and grinned. Music, the kind of grin that tells someone, you've already made up your mind. I didn't say a word, just finished my plate, helped Mom clear the table, and drove home in silence. Music, Melanie stayed behind, soaking in the attention. What none of them knew was that while they were still eating dessert, I was on my laptop. I opened my banking app, scrolled through the monthly payments, and started canceling them one by one. The rent transferred to Melanie's landlord, gone. Her phone bill cut off. Car insurance canceled. Streaming services on my account, logged out. That student loan I'd co-signed for and had been secretly paying to help her get her life on track. Done. Even the Uber account she used under my name. Logged out, password changed. It took less than 20 minutes to wipe away 3 years of enabling. I didn't send her a message. Didn't make a scene. I just stopped, let her figure it out. Music, I knew she wouldn't feel it right away. Melanie always lived in a bubble of denial. She never checked what was being paid as long as her phone worked and the lights stayed on. But when that bubble popped, it was going to be loud. And for once, I was going to let it be her problem. 3 days passed in total silence. Not a text, not a call, not even a sarcastic meme from Melanie. I'd been expecting fireworks by morning, accusations, guilt trips, voice notes starting with, "Dubby, if is wrong with you." But instead, I got radio silence. It made me wonder if she hadn't even noticed yet. That wouldn't surprise me. He never noticed how much I did. Not when I Venmo'd her landlord every first of the month. Not when her cracked iPhone magically got replaced. Not when her car insurance stayed active even though she hadn't made a payment in 6 months. She thought her life, just music, floated like she was charmed or something. Day for though that illusion shattered. The first message came early. I was still in bed scrolling. It was short. "Hey, my phone's off. Did something happen with the bill?" 10 minutes later came the second message. This time through Instagram. "Hey, this is getting weird. My apartment complex left a voicemail saying, 'My rent hasn't come through yet. Can you double-check the transfer?'" Then silence for a few hours followed by a voice note around lunch. Music. He was trying to sound casual. Something about her Wi-Fi being down while she was trying to upload a project for her online business course. She mentioned that her Uber app wouldn't log in either and her Hulu wasn't working. Music. And she was wondering if maybe there was some sort of issue on my end. I just sipped my coffee and moved on with my day. Music. By dinner, the text turned more frantic. Screenshots of failed login attempts. "Can you just explain what's going on?" Then one that made me laugh out loud. "Did you seriously cut me off? WTF is wrong with you?" No reply from me. By the next morning, I had 5 missed calls from her and 2 from Mom. I ignored them all. Then Kyle called. That one I picked up. He said Melanie had shown up at our parents' house in sweatpants and last night's makeup, carrying 2 duffel bags and looking like the world owed her an apology. She claimed someone had hacked her accounts, canceled her bills, and was trying to ruin her life. Carl said Mom was spiraling already, suggesting I must be going through something, and we should all talk. I told him flat out, I wasn't going through anything. Music, I was done. That night, I sat down and wrote everything out. Not for them. For me. Every dollar since 2020, every lie I believed, every time I bailed her out while she said I was too uptight or needed to relax, I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I stared at the list and suddenly realized something. I'd been taking care of someone who wouldn't even hold the door open for me if I was 2 steps behind. The next day, I finally called Mom back. She didn't even say hello. What's going on with your sister? She asked. I told her everything, plainly. Every bill, every fake emergency, every time I paid instead of saying no. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, we didn't know. That's when I realized how deep it really went. They didn't know because they never asked. They didn't want to. As long as things looked calm, they assumed everything was fine. I kept the peace, and they let me. Not anymore. That weekend, Melanie posted a story with some dramatic quote about being betrayed by the people you trust most. I didn't respond. Neither did anyone else. She burned through what little savings she had in about 5 days. I knew she would. She started scrambling, moving between friends, posting barely subtle cries for help on social media, pretending it was all temporary. But for the first time, it wasn't my problem. And for the first time, my life finally felt like it was mine. Melanie didn't hit rock bottom all at once. She found it the same way she lived, recklessly, loudly, and with zero awareness until it was too late. The first real sign that things were unraveling came when she showed up at an old friend's apartment without notice. She stayed 2 nights, ate their food, used their shampoo, left a coffee mug with half-melted ice cream on the windowsill, and disappeared. The friend messaged me on Facebook. I know you guys are close. Is she okay? I stared at the message for a full minute before replying. She's figuring things out. She'll be fine. I didn't offer to pick her up. I didn't ask where she went next. I logged off. Disconnecting was getting easier. The old me would have dropped everything, driven across the city, and offered her my couch again. But the old me was gone. Something had shifted that Thanksgiving night, and it hadn't shifted back that I started changing in other ways too, slowly, quietly. I didn't tell anyone. I canceled the gym membership I never used and joined a smaller studio near my office, the kind with wooden floors and people who didn't wear makeup just to sweat. On a whim, I bought roller skates. I hadn't skated since college, but I used to love it. Melanie once said I looked ridiculous in them, so I'd shoved them into a closet and forgotten about them. Now I skated down the park path near my apartment twice a week, headphones on, eyes forward. Every time my phone buzzed with her name, I let it go to voicemail. The voicemails got longer. First she was confused, then annoyed, then scared. She said she was staying with friends, but couldn't keep doing that. That her account was overdrawn again. That she'd applied for 3 jobs and hadn't heard back. That she was literally starving. That I knew she wasn't starving. She was scared. For the first time, she was facing her own consequences without anyone blocking them. She said, I know you're mad, but I really need help right now. I didn't delete the voicemail, but I didn't call back either. That I was learning how to help without fixing. That's what my therapist called it when I finally told her everything. She said I'd built my identity around solving other people's problems. That when I stopped, it felt like I wasn't doing enough, even though it was exactly what I needed to survive. She said something I'll never forget. When you stop catching her, she might finally learn how to land. So I stopped catching her. I watched her fall. I sat with the guilt, and it faded because underneath it was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief that I stopped checking her social media. I muted the family group chat. I cleaned my apartment the way I liked it, with the music I liked, and no one on my couch complaining that the place felt like a hotel. I had my space back. My time back, that I remembered things I used to enjoy. I signed up for a pottery class. I started cooking instead of ordering in. I even blocked her number for a few days just to see how it felt. It felt like freedom. I wasn't heartless, just tired. And I knew this was only the beginning. Not just for me, but for her. She was on her own now. And whether she liked it or not, the life she'd been avoiding, the responsibility, the choices, the growing up, was catching up. This time, there was no one left to blame. 2.5 weeks after I pulled the plug, the call came. It was Mom. She didn't bother hiding the frustration in her voice. Melanie had shown up at their doorstep without warning, dragging a busted duffel bag and 3 shopping bags that clearly weren't hers. She hadn't showered. She hadn't called ahead. She just arrived, like the world owed her a soft landing. That I asked where Dad was sleeping. He says he is, Mom replied, but not really. He's pretending so he doesn't have to get involved. That sounded about right. She asked what I thought they should do, whether they should cover Melanie's rent just for this month, help her find a job, if I had any ideas. I said, do what you want, but I'm out. Don't pull me back in. She was quiet for a second, then said, you really meant it, didn't you? I told her I did, and I hung up. I could have left it there. But I didn't. A few days later, I drove over without telling anyone. I needed to see it for myself. What Melanie looked like when the handouts stopped and reality finally set in. She was in the guest room, curled under a blanket on top of the covers, scrolling through her phone like she was trying to make it ring. She didn't even hear me come in. The room was a mess. 2 half-eaten plates sat on the dresser, a suitcase barely zipped, clothes spilling onto the floor. The room smelled like cheap perfume and dry shampoo. I stood in the doorway until she finally looked up. No glare. No eye roll. Just a slow blink. You came. Yeah, I said. She sat up, pulled her knees in, suddenly smaller. Not physically, just quieter, like something inside her had shut off. She told me she hadn't realized how much I'd been doing until it all stopped. I listened as she talked about losing her job, missing shifts, crashing with friends who eventually disappeared, spending hours at the library applying for work. She wasn't crying, just exhausted. I told her I wasn't giving her money anymore. Not now, not ever. That part of our relationship was over. If she wanted to fix things, she had to do it herself. I said I'd listen, but I wouldn't rescue her anymore. She nodded. No arguing. No excuses. Just tired honesty. Downstairs, my parents were watching the news on mute. I asked what their plan was. They said they didn't want to make things worse. I told them they already had, by letting me handle everything for years. I said if she was staying, they needed to treat her like an adult. Rules, deadlines, responsibility. They didn't like it, but I wasn't there to comfort them. I left feeling heavy, but clear. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted peace. And maybe the hope that Melanie would grow up for herself. By week 4, she had. Quietly, she was taking the bus to a part-time job at a small coffee shop. Nothing dramatic, just real. I didn't hear it from her. A friend sent me a blurry photo of her behind the counter, name tag on. I felt relief, not pride. Like I could finally breathe. She didn't ask me for anything. Mom said she was coming home tired, cooking simple meals, reading at night. Budgeting. One of my old books. Then I ran into her at the grocery store. Hoodie, name tag, basket of frozen food. Calm. She said she was still broke, still working, not missing shifts. She talked about alarms, packing lunch, budgeting, cutting off old habits. No manipulation. No excuses. I really messed things up, she said. Yeah, I replied. But you're fixing it. We didn't cry. We just stood there, 2 sisters, not a fixer and a disaster. After that, we texted sometimes. Small updates. No asking. Just progress. She still lived with our parents, but now there were rules. Deadlines. No handouts. She was paying her own way. And for the first time, it was actually working. She was managing, clumsily, imperfectly, but she was managing. I went over for dinner one night to see how things were. Melanie opened the door in slippers and sweatpants, hair damp from a shower. She looked tired, but not miserable. Want tea or something? She asked. I blinked. It was the first time she'd offered me anything in years. Yeah. I said at a tea dinner. My parents made small talk. Melanie didn't interrupt once. She listened. She even did the dishes without being asked. When it was just the 2 of us in the kitchen, she leaned against the counter and said, I know I burned everything down, but I think I needed to. Then she said something I'll never forget. You always tried to save me. I thought you were controlling me. But when you stopped, that's when I realized how lost I was. I told her, I'm still here, just not to fix everything. She smiled. Small, real. By the end of the 6th week, Melanie moved into a tiny studio above a hardware store. Old, stained ceiling, smelled like dust, but it was hers. She paid for it herself and didn't ask for help. I found out through Mom. A few days later, I texted her. So, you finally escaped? Yeah, she replied. It's ugly but quiet. Kind of perfect. When I visited, the place was bare. A futon, a folding table, a candle on the windowsill. She poured me over steeped tea in a chipped mug. We sat on the floor, music low. She told me she'd enrolled in a 6-month certification program and liked being able to say no now. To people, to bad habits, to calling me in a panic. I don't miss who I was, she said. But I miss who we used to be. Maybe this is who we're supposed to be now. I said that IT wasn't perfect, but it was real. We talked like sisters again. Not fixer and disaster. 2 months later, she texted, I have something to tell you. Don't freak out. When I came over, her place looked different. Curtains, a table, even a living plant. She was nervous but happy. I met someone, she said. Calm, grounded, not trying to impress me. Then she showed me the real surprise, a confirmation for night classes at the community college. I'm doing it, she said. I finally want more than just getting by. And for the first time, the surprise wasn't a mess I had to clean up.